Most people don't notice it, but some individuals walk through life carrying a quiet truth inside them, a feeling that they are somehow different from everyone else. Not special, not superior, just different. It starts early. Maybe you felt it sitting in a classroom, surrounded by noise and chatter, wondering why everyone else seemed to know exactly who to be, while you felt like an observer in your own life. Like you were watching the world through glass. Not because you hated people, not because you didn't belong, but because something in you worked differently. Your thoughts ran deeper. Your emotions lived quietly in hidden rooms. Your attention wandered to places no one else seemed to notice. And you learned early, your inner world wasn't built like theirs. Some people recognize this feeling immediately. For others, it's a quiet discovery, the kind you don't even fully understand until one day someone asks, "Why are you so quiet?" Or, "Why do you think so much?" And you realize you've been carrying a world inside you that others simply can't see. But here's the truth, the deeper, hidden truth that psychology rarely explains softly. Feeling different isn't a flaw. It isn't brokenness. It isn't emotional weakness. It's often the mind of someone who feels more, who senses more, observes more, thinks more. The mind of someone who absorbs life instead of just passing through it. These are the people who see things before others see them, who feel storms coming long before thunder is heard, who pick up on tones, silence, energy, and emotions without anyone saying a word. They feel the world with the depth of someone who was never meant to exist at the surface. But the world doesn't always handle depth gently, and so many people with rich inner worlds grow up feeling like outsiders in their own life. They aren't alone, but they feel lonely in a crowded room. You might know this feeling too well. You speak, but the words don't sound like the ones in your mind. You socialize, but you feel like you're performing a role. You love deeply, but you rarely feel understood in return. And so, you begin to keep more of yourself inside, not to hide, but to protect the parts of you the world cannot hold. Here's the quiet truth. People who feel different are often living with emotional depth that others haven't learned to see. You think deeply, not because you want to, but because your mind naturally works like a labyrinth. You feel deeply, not because you're sensitive, but because your emotional world has layers. You connect intensely, not because you're needy, but because your heart forms bonds that aren't casual. You don't fit into the world easily because your mind doesn't follow the patterns the world expects. But here is the part most people never understand. People who feel too different often grow up carrying two identities. The outer one, calm, quiet, polite, composed. The inner one, deep, restless, searching, overflowing with unspoken thoughts. You show people the easy version of you because the real version, the deeper version, feels too much for most. Too intense, too observant, too emotional, too introspective, too everything. So you learn to shrink your inner world just enough to blend in. You smile a little more. You speak a little less. You act normal. But inside, you live with an ocean that no one knows exists. This is the psychology of people who feel different. They carry worlds within them. Worlds of memory, worlds of emotion, worlds of detail, worlds of quiet intuition. But because the world praises sameness, ease, and simplicity, people like you grow up feeling like outsiders instead of the visionaries, empaths, and quiet analysts you truly are. And the saddest part? People often misunderstand this inner depth as weakness. They think you're shy, or aloof, or detached, or uninterested. But in reality, you are simply processing everything at a level they don't reach. This script exists for one reason: to explain the truth of people like you, and to tell the emotional story of the ones whose minds stretch further into the world than their bodies ever could. Because if you've ever felt too different, you're not broken, you're not alone, and you're definitely not the only one. If you've ever felt different, it didn't start with a choice. It started with your wiring. Some minds are built like highways, fast, loud, efficient. Other minds like yours, are built like forests, quiet, layered, complicated, alive with unseen life. Psychologically, people who feel different share one trait almost every time. They experience the world more intensely than others. This is not a weakness, it is a nervous system tuned to subtle details. You don't just notice someone's words, you notice their tone, their hesitation, their silence. You don't just see a room, you feel its energy, the tension, the emotion hanging in the air. Your mind tracks things most ignore. Your heart responds to things most can't feel. This is why relationships feel different for you. You bond deeply. You see people clearly. You feel honesty and dishonesty in your body. You sense distance even when words seem fine. You know when someone is pretending, even when you can't explain how you know. And because of this emotional sensitivity, many people who feel different develop something psychology calls heightened emotional awareness. This means you think about your feelings often. You think about other people's feelings often. You reflect more than you react. You analyze more than you express. You understand emotions instinctively. But here's the paradox. Being emotionally aware does not mean you feel emotionally understood. Most of your inner world never gets spoken. Not because you're hiding it, but because you're not sure the world would understand it. You felt this many times. You try to explain something meaningful, but the other person reacts with a shallow answer. You try to open up, but someone interrupts you with small talk. You try to articulate your loneliness, but people laugh and say, "You're overthinking again." That moment, that tiny sting of being misunderstood, creates a psychological shift. You stop trying to be understood. You start trying to be acceptable. Not because you want to pretend, but because expressing your true depth feels like exposing something sacred to people who won't handle it gently. So you build a different version of yourself, the version that blends in, fits in, keeps things simple. But your real world, your real mind, stays inside. And inside, you carry stories no one else knows. People like you often live between two worlds, the world around you and the world inside you. And the more those two worlds drift apart, the stronger the feeling becomes. I don't belong anywhere. But here is the psychological truth no one tells you. The feeling of being different comes from depth, not defect. You feel different because your mind processes emotion like art, not like math. You feel different because you sense meaning in places most people overlook. You feel different because your inner life is richer, more complex, more intuitive. And because you experience life intensely, you also experience pain intensely. People who feel too different often love deeply, forgive easily, carry emotional wounds longer, overthink every detail, remember what others forget, internalize rejection, stay loyal beyond reason, feel responsible for everyone, struggle to express their own needs. You aren't wired like the world expects people to be. You're wired like someone who feels humanity at full volume. Let's go deeper. There's a psychological pattern called depth-oriented emotional processing. Here's what it means. When something happens, good or bad, you don't just experience it, you absorb it, you sit with it, you interpret it, you replay it, you find meaning in it. Where others feel once, you feel 10 times. Where others move on quickly, you need time to unravel the emotional threads. Where others say, "It's not a big deal," your mind whispers, "But it meant something." This makes you wise, but it also makes you tired. Because you live with so much awareness, so much feeling, so much reflection, that the world often feels loud, shallow, chaotic, too fast for you. And here's the quiet truth. People who feel different aren't broken. They're deep souls living in a surface-level world. No wonder you feel the way you do. There is a loneliness that has nothing to do with being alone. It's the loneliness of feeling unseen, even when you're surrounded by people. It's the loneliness of having a mind that works in ways the world doesn't often understand. People who feel too different rarely show this. They smile, they function, they help others, they appear stable. But inside they live with an emotional distance that is invisible from the outside. Let's talk about that distance. Let's talk about the quiet loneliness hidden in people like you. 1. The loneliness of being the listener, not the sharer. You're often the one people come to. You listen deeply. You understand their emotions more clearly than they do. You become their safe place, their silent harbor. But who listens to you? Who notices the heaviness in your voice? Who senses your emotional exhaustion? Who asks, "Are you okay?" and truly means it? The hidden loneliness is this. You give emotional space, but rarely receive it. 2. The loneliness of thinking too much with people who think too little. Overthinking is not your enemy, it is your nature. Your mind is a maze of meaning. Everything touches something deeper. But most people don't live that way. They don't process at your level. So when you speak honestly, they say, "You're too sensitive," or "You think too deeply about everything." What they call too deep is simply your normal. And so you stop sharing. You filter. You shrink. You simplify your thoughts to avoid the blank stares and shallow responses. You silence your depth to protect the conversation. 3. The loneliness of emotional independence. You don't ask for help, not because you don't need it, but because you don't want to burden anyone. People who feel too different develop emotional independence early. You learned to comfort yourself, to analyze your own feelings, to solve your own inner storms. But independence becomes isolating. You want connection, but you don't want to rely on anyone. You want to open up, but you fear overwhelming someone. You crave understanding, but you're terrified of being misunderstood. So you hold your emotions quietly, like fragile glass you're scared to hand to anyone else. 4. The loneliness of caring too much in a world that cares too little. You love people even when they don't love themselves. You forgive even when they don't apologize. You see the good in others even when they can't see it in themselves. But this depth, this tenderness, this emotional generosity, it drains you. You give and give and give, and the world takes, not out of cruelty, but out of habit. You become the strong one, the stable one, the one who doesn't break easily, the one who never explodes, never complains, never collapses. Until one day, silently, you do. And no one notices, because you've trained the world to think you don't break. 5. The loneliness of being aware of everything. Emotional maturity, empathy, insight, intuition, these are beautiful traits, but they come with a cost. You see patterns too early. You notice tension before it starts. You sense dishonesty instantly. You feel distance before it is spoken. You live in a world where your awareness is both a blessing and a burden, and it isolates you. 6. The loneliness of living mostly inside your mind. Your inner world is full, rich, deep, and endlessly alive. But because so much happens inside you, people misunderstand your silence. Your quiet is not emptiness. It is fullness the world cannot access. Your calm face hides oceans. Your stillness hides motion. Your soft voice hides storms. And the saddest part, most will never know the depth of the person standing right in front of them. The person who feels everything, understands everything, and hides everything, to protect themselves from a world that doesn't read hearts as fluently as you do. This loneliness is real, but it's not hopeless. There comes a moment, quiet, unannounced, gentle like a shift in the wind, when a person who has always felt different finally understands something life-changing. They were never meant to fit into the world. They were meant to see it, to feel it, to understand it. People like you were not designed for ordinary life. Your mind wasn't built to stay on the surface. Your heart wasn't made to love halfway. Your soul wasn't shaped for shallow connections or half-truths. You were built with depth for a reason. Let's talk about that reason. 1. Depth is your intelligence, not your burden. People who feel different often grow up believing their emotional intensity is a flaw. It's too much. It's too heavy. It's too complicated. But emotional depth is a form of intelligence, one that the world rarely teaches but deeply needs. The ability to read people, the capacity to see truth behind words, the intuition to sense what others cannot, the awareness to understand things without explanation. This isn't brokenness, this is brilliance. You don't think too much, you understand too deeply. You don't feel too much, you feel accurately, with clarity, with sensitivity, with meaning. Your depth is a gift, a compass, a way of seeing the world that most people never access. 2. Your dissus is a sign of emotional evolution. Emotionally mature people feel different because they are. You can't unsee the truth once you learn to see it. You can't pretend to be shallow once you've lived deeply. You can't force yourself to be light when your soul was built to be honest. You are not behind others, you're ahead in ways they can't understand yet. And yes, it's isolating at times, but it's also liberating because you begin to realize you don't need everyone to understand you. You only need the right people, the ones who can meet you where you really are. 3. When you accept your difference, you stop apologizing for it. You stop trying to shrink yourself to fit into rooms that were never meant to hold you. You stop dimming your light to make others comfortable. You stop pretending that your thoughts are simple. You stop pretending that your feelings are small. You stop apologizing for your depth, and you start honoring it. You start speaking honestly instead of editing yourself. You start forming connections that feel natural instead of forced. You start choosing people who speak your emotional language. You start protecting your energy like something sacred, because it is. You stop surviving your difference and start living because of it. 4. You find others like you, the rare, quiet, deep ones. Every person who feels different eventually discovers something that changes everything. You are not the only one. Somewhere in your life, quietly, unexpectedly, you meet someone who listens the way you do, sees the world the way you do, feels the undercurrents in conversations, understands silence, and speaks with meaning instead of noise. And when you meet someone like that, you feel it instantly. Like recognition, like home, like your soul finally whispers, "Here, someone understands." These connections are rare, but they are real, and they last. Because people with depth don't bond often, but when they do, it's unbreakable. 5. You begin living from your inner truth instead of your outer disguise. The day you accept your difference is the day your life begins to shift. You no longer feel pressured to fit roles that exhaust you. You no longer chase validation from people who can't see your worth. You no longer apologize for your emotions or your silence. You no longer abandon yourself to belong to others. Instead, you start belonging to yourself. And in that moment, you feel peace for the first time. The loud world becomes quieter. The shallow connections stop mattering. The wrong people lose their power over you. Your clarity becomes your strength. Your sensitivity becomes your wisdom. Your emotional depth becomes your compass. You become someone who is no longer afraid of feeling different. Because now you understand, different was never meant to be wrong. Different was meant to be rare. And rare things are never understood at first, only valued later. Final message, the soft CTA. If you've listened this far, it means you are one of the rare ones. One of the deep ones. One of the quiet souls who feels the world intensely and truthfully. And I want you to remember something. There is nothing wrong with you. Your depth is not a mistake. Your mind is not broken. Your heart is not too much. You are simply living at a different emotional temperature than the world around you. But you're not alone. Not here. If you want to keep exploring your inner world, your hidden truths, your emotional depth, stay close. You have a home here.